Hello, combabes! Welcome to another weekend of this stuff. We're going to welcome Jo Grady in just a minute, and we're going to talk about unions. So Jo Grady is the General Secretary of UCU, and she's coming on right now. Actually, she can introduce herself. Just count away till Jo Grady arrives. Yay! She's here!
Hi!
Hello, Jo. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
You look gorgeous. I'm great.
I said I'd dress up, so I'm like
Oh my god. Wait, I'm gonna put mine on actually. I've got some earrings. I can do this too. Ooh.
I
How
didn't
are
want
you
to like
doing?
I didn't want to leave you hanging and be like kind of a bit glam and not do it, so I thought I'd just
No, this is good. You're always glam anyway.
Oh,
You don't
thanks.
even need to try.
How are you?
You know what? I'm great. It's sunny in France. I don't know how it is in the UK, but it's quite nice here.
It's dreary.
Dreary. Oh my god. Well, it's the perfect time to do this then, isn't it?
Yes.
Look at the sunlight.
That is nice. That is, if I could turn the phone around, it's just really, really grey here, and yeah, classic British weather.
Oh no. So, shall we get going?
Yes.
You introduce yourself for all of us who do not know your gorgeous self.
My name is Jo Grady. I am the General Secretary of UCU, which is the University and College Union, also known as the largest post-16/tertiary education union in the world.
So it's the union for and all the teachers in further education, higher education, and also all the support staff. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, so we are the union for support staff, professional service staff, technicians, librarians, and all across further education, higher education, adult education, and prison education in the UK as well.
Yes. Oh my god, do you know what? In our chat Friday, I only realized then that you were actually representing people who were incarcerated. That's amazing.
Yeah, and obviously during the last, God, how long has it been since March? But the last sort of 8 months.
Yeah.
We, like at the very beginning of lockdown, we had to really do a lot for our prison members because the health and safety in a lot of the UK's prisons and detention centres is appalling all the time, let alone when you're actually trying to control a highly contagious virus. Also, the amount of in-cell technology for prisoners in the UK is terrible. So actually keeping education going, but keeping educators safe was a real challenge and remains so, actually.
Yes, and we're going to talk about all this. I mean, we didn't really talk about COVID in our like preliminary chat, but I'm sure we'll touch upon it. I mean, it's just kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
We're doing a cut crease look, which is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's gorgeous though. It's amazing. It's very flattering for the eyes, and none of us have tried it yet. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I've never tried it, and I've got 2 odd eyes as well, so it's gonna be a challenge.
So you've got the added challenge. This is good. Shall we start with the base? And I know that I usually do like a little bit of personal stuff before we get onto like the hardcore politics. And I remember speaking to you and you saying that you were like me, obsessed with your own self-care. Well, not self-care, but like skincare routine and that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I am quite, as anyone who knows me, I'm quite obsessed with, would tell you, I'm quite obsessed with skincare. And I have basically been incrementally getting all of my friends to use, well, one of my friends got me to use it, so I should actually credit my friend, but to use AHA, BHA, retinol, and SPF.
So AHA and BHA are acids for clearing the skin, I think. It's like exfoliants, right?
So AHA basically kind of like exfoliates and removes the top layer of skin gently. And BHA has it has an acid in it. I want to call it salicylic. I can never say it properly because when you're
salicylic acid.
Thank you. When you're dyslexic, all the letters just float together. And that penetrates into your pores and actually exfoliates your pores inside out. So it does a
Yeah.
very different job to the AHA, which only works on the surface. The BHA penetrates down.
But so for anyone who still uses, you know, like the sort of the exfoliants, like sugar, like the stuff that really is raw on your skin, I recommend stopping using those and then
Yeah.
using acid-based exfoliants instead, because I mean they're much better, and also they don't actually like destroy your skin in the process.
No. No, and I think people freak out when you say it's an acid because they go, oh, why would you put that on your face? But, you know, you're doing it in a controlled way. But the other thing is, if you're going to start using these products, you have to use an SPF every day.
Yes.
And if you're not going to commit to using an SPF every day, then you shouldn't use them at all.
I mean, in general, you have to use sunscreen every day. I mean, this is like the number, like if you're going to do anything at all to take care of your skin,
yeah, I mean,
sunscreen on.
Yeah, I'm not encouraging people not to use it. You're completely right. People should be using it anyway. But if you're going to launch into using acids on your face, you can't even like forget a day. It's super, super, super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about retinols? Because I literally just heard about it like a few months ago. I was like, baby retinol, Clem.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't go hard with retinol. I know that some people use like a really high percentage retinol or like a prescription one. I use a 1% retinol, retinol basically, I think it's vitamin A retinol, and it can make your skin look a lot plumper, and it can make any fine lines look reduced. But it does that not by, I mean, I think it does gently exfoliate the surface of your skin, but again, it penetrates down to the sort of epidermis, and I think it just boosts the production of these things. But you do need to be careful with it and like only use it once or twice a week. And again, make sure you're using SPF. Don't use it on the same, so I use my, I'm like shouting it. I don't use it on the same time as you're using an AHA. And yeah, use it sparingly throughout the week.
Yeah, so this is like, so my routine, I kind of found myself a little bit, at first I was doing really dumb stuff like mixing niacinamide and vitamin C, which is not good. It'll actually just burn your skin.
Yeah.
Very painful. And, you know, having to use retinol like 2 or 3 times a week, maybe not more, because then it dries your skin out a lot. Okay, basics for anyone who's like, what the fuck are they talking about? Retinol and AHA and BHA, it's all for kind of any type of skin to be, you know, glowy and plumper and more like it looks healthier and it's more hydrated and it's, you know, there's like less dead skins on the top, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyone who wants to try it can try it. Like they're just ingredients that are available in lots of products, basically. But
they are. The one thing I would say is I think the product that if you're going to pick any to use, I would say BHA and use it every day. You just either use some sort of cotton or some sort of like other pad, or you can
like a wash.
Yeah, like a wash. Use it every day, and your skin cycle, a full skin cycle is 12 weeks. But with a BHA, you will start to notice a difference in your skin in like 2 or 3 weeks. And people will start saying to you in 3 weeks and then 6 weeks, wow, you look really fresh. And yeah, so you will notice it in 3 weeks and then 6 weeks and then the full skin cycle, which is 12. So I would say to anyone, if they're just wanting to dip their toe in the, you know, perfect leftist socialist skin pool, start with a BHA, and it gives you a glow that, you know, only trying to smash capitalism can, I would say.
No, it's like the sort of the glow of there is a better alternative out there. But we're not here to talk about, well, we're not here to talk about just skincare, even though I am in awe of like how much you know. I think that's just like, you know, anyone who, there's this thing about in the left, you know, not taking care of yourself or being afraid that if you do, it means that you are starting to comply with capitalist rules about how you should be and how you should live your life, which is like not wrong in a sense, just kind of very limiting, because taking care of yourself is outside of the bounds of capitalism in so many ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And also, like, if you're gonna live on this earth, you kind of want to feel good about yourself.
completely.
Time while you're there.
Yeah, but I also think that I think it's one of the sort of things that the right tries to do to constantly undermine and belittle anything that the left does. So, you know, there's this sense that you can't be serious about
Yes.
what you're trying to achieve if you enjoy anything that then can be positioned as frivolous at all. So, you know,
Yeah.
nice food or makeup or like just anything really, anything that is a joyful experience. Whereas, you know, we know that there is joy in resistance. And, you know, we know that when I wish I could link to it, but have you ever read the study about or the write up of when they actually took makeup, and I think it was lipstick, to some of the concentration camps during the Holocaust, and the real kind of way in which people in the moment have been able to have those things and actually remember what life was like and things like that. It's just a real, you know, transformational moment. And one of the reasons I kind of love makeup and love hair and love clothes is you can kind of really transform yourself in a day, and you can do something fun and it doesn't matter. And I think that's really nice. And I'm sad for people who don't find the joy in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sad that, you know, it has become for a lot of us something that is like an obligation
Yeah.
rather than something fun that you can just, you know, explore with and experiment. And it
Yeah.
should be the latter, obviously. So let's try to make it the latter as much as we can. Oh my gosh, you literally like a YouTuber. You got your little patch. I'm gonna do the triangle now.
I just don't think I'm like doing like my mum and like going in really close and freaking myself out. So I'm just like just doing it.
Okay, but we are actually here to talk about unions, which is very exciting. You know, like I've already told you this, but for anyone who knows me, I studied at university. I went up to like master stuff, and when I was in my final year, there was like a big upsurge of movement within the union, like within the teachers' unions, especially UCU. And we students organized a lot of like support actions, I guess, because they weren't just occupations. There were a lot of occupations. There was like a wave of them, which was amazing. It was 2018. It was so much fun. And I remember loads of my lectures talking about you and being like, oh my God, she's amazing. I hope she gets elected, blah, blah. And just kind of like fangirling over you. And it was, yeah, that's how I know you. It's actually how I know you. Just like fangirl of Jo Grady. Since I was like a little bachelor Clem.
Oh
no, it's so sweet. But yeah, you are the UCU's general secretary, which means that you are basically like the highest ranking member, I guess.
So yeah, so you have this kind of not weird role, but you have a dual role when you're general secretary, that you are the, in UCU you're the only member of staff, so paid staff, that is elected. So you know you have the mandate from the members to actually be the CEO of the organization, if you want to think about it like that. So you have this kind of dual role.
Dual role. Okay, so you are both the bureaucrat and also the activist.
Yeah, and I think that my election in particular was very different. So, you know, I did come straight from the rank and file of the membership. I am still a member of UCU. I didn't give up my membership when I got elected. And, you know, it's really unusual for someone to be able to do what I did, to just sort of come straight from the shop floor and get elected. So, yeah, I mean, depending on how you want to kind of talk about unions, I could be the bureaucrat now. But I think what we have always wanted in UCU, and I think, you know, we're kind of getting there, is really when a rank and file kind of, you know, the union becomes that, rather than, you know, I'm really of the Jane McAlevey school of how we talk and think about unions, and that we shouldn't third party any bits of the membership, and that we shouldn't do that to the union either, for various reasons.
So that means like saying the union does nothing, the union is this, the union is that, rather than like, I, who am a part of the union, should be doing this or should be doing that to contribute to blah, 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 blah. Like the union is us rather than the union is them.
Precisely. Yeah. The
Yeah.
union is not some third entity. And yeah, obviously there are staff of the union, there are, you know, lay elected members, there are activists in branches, but unions gain power because of members and because of mass participation of members, and because we grow our numbers and more people join. And, you know, any movement at all that is dependent on a leader, you know, whether that's a politician or a general secretary, is bound to fail because it's about the people behind the movement. And I think that the role of a good general secretary is to be constantly finding ways for the rank and file to do stuff and to help recruit more people and to empower them, and, you know, to go on and do the sort of national level campaigning that only a national union can do. But the strength of a union, and I think particularly the strength of a union like UCU, is its branches. And that's, you know, the branch in a workplace, whether that's Leicester City College or Leicester University, and it's, you know, only by strengthening those branches that you strengthen the union as a whole. Like a big media campaign can't do what workers can achieve on the ground.
Yeah. And seeing like and witnessing the difference between 2016 UCU and 2018 UCU, and then since then the level of activity that it's kind of, you know, that's ramped up really validates that idea of like the union is us rather than, I mean, not me, but the union is like everyone who's in it rather than just the, you know, the people who are gonna make the little billboard campaigns and then, you know,
yeah,
you know, it's like, it's,
you know, the reason I got involved in I incrementally got involved at my branch, and then, you know, you kind of go up the levels. And I never got involved, like so if I think back to when I was at the University of Leicester and I was sort of the shop steward along with a friend of mine at the time in my department.
Yeah.
And we got to like 95% density in our department.
What does that mean in layman's terms?
Oh, so the density is, let's say there's, just make it easy for maths. Like if there's 100 people who could be in your union because they're in your bargaining group, if there's 100 of them in your department, in your workplace, and you've recruited 90 of them, you have 90% density, 95, 95% density. So obviously the higher the density you have, the stronger the leverage you have, because if you are in part of a campaign, or if you vote for action and you say you're going to walk out, if you know that 95% of the people walk out with you, then you're going to get presumably 95%, if not 100% of what it is you're asking for.
Yes.
If you've only got 30% density, and therefore your threat of whatever disruption you're saying you're going to cause just isn't as high. And obviously we've all got to start from somewhere. So it's not to sort of knock 30% density. It's just to sort of say, we've got to get big density if we want to make big changes.
Yes, I agree. And this is
what
is
are you
good
doing?
for,
I feel like I'm behind.
I'm contouring right now, so I'm doing like a really angular contour. I don't know why. I kind of wanted to do that today. I usually do more round ones, but I've been looking at like fox eye tutorials, and now I'm really into it. So I'm gonna do an angular.
I'm not a good contourer, but I will copy you. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Oh, what the hell? Oh, yes. So this is good, like sort of basic union chat. It's like for anyone who's out there being like, what the hell is a union for? Well, a union is strength in numbers. If you need something, if you're not being treated right at work, if you're not getting paid enough, everyone's gonna come together and be like, yeah, to the bosses. The bosses won't give them what they want. They have collective action to stop it. And I'm so sorry. It's so nice to watch you do. But if you're not in a union and you're like, my union, it does nothing and no one's in it and I'm not going to join, well, that's the precise reason why you should join the union, because the more density there is, the more power they're going to have, and the more activity there is, the more power they're going to have. And yeah, and I think that was really shown in the upsurge of UCU, because like the way that my lecturers would talk to me about UCU before 2018 was very much, they're hopeless and they're toothless and they're useless and blah blah blah, and like most unions, they've been fucked around over the last decade and lost all their power, and there's nothing we can do about that now. But you know, it seems like it's changed. And yeah, do you want to talk about the 2018 actions a little bit? Because like I feel like, I mean, I know what I know from my perspective of being at Bath, but you probably know about the whole national picture.
Yeah, I just to sort of bookend what you were just saying though, because I think you're completely right that people on the ground have to kind of grasp their own conditions and fight for them. But the role, I think, of the National Union is to give them support and to give them professional advice and to give them resources if they need them. But people on the ground have to be willing to do those things. And, you build a strong branch by keeping people organized all the time and doing activities in your workplace that build power. It's not just about a ballot every now and again. And, I think one of the things that you're alluding to is that people had lost a bit of faith, that the National Union would do those things. And I think what was really great about the 2018 dispute, was in sort of 60 plus higher education institutions that were in a particular pension scheme called USS. And it was about the downgrading or the potential downgrading of that scheme. Now, what happened during that dispute, which was quite unusual for UCU, was, it was extended strike action. Prior to the 2018 dispute, we'd had like 2 days maximum. There was even like times when we did strikes which were 2 hours, which went down like a bag of wet sick. And this was 14 days over 4 weeks. And actually what happened is as the 4 weeks went on and the days went on, more and more people got really outraged because the employers were acting abominably. And actually the best way to politicize people is really show them what management will do if they think they can get away with it. And it really became a dispute that was led by members, and that I think the National Union at the time had to like really catch up on. Yes. And I think it energized people and made people realize what they could achieve. And it was like a breakthrough moment, if you like. And I think that was great for our union.
Yes, in so many ways, like people started doing things that they would have never done before, like the teachouts were new, and they're not like a new technique, but they were quite new, I think, for UCU. They hadn't been, used in a really long time as a resistance tool, and they were used like almost across the entire country during the 2018 strikes. It was so wonderful. For anyone who doesn't know the teachout, you probably know more than I do actually, the definition, the sort of strict.
So basically what happened, I don't know if they did exist before 2018 in UCU anyway. So most of us were looking at 14 days of action over 4 weeks. And we're kind of like overwhelmed because we thought, well, I don't know what that's going to be like. Will we have any structure? And obviously UCU members, whether they're researchers, librarians, technicians, professional service, whatever they do, they like to be busy and do something. And we also wanted to make sure that our students didn't feel abandoned because it was such a long period of time. So we developed quite organically. And again, I think this is the point. Nobody from head office said to the branches, you need to do some teach outs. It was just something that branches decided to do. So the branches kind of autonomously and organically started scheduling teaching events, whether they were on the picket line or in like the student union building or somewhere, to either coincide with the picket or post picket. And they were great. They were absolutely amazing because they continued the picket line after the picket line. They allowed for a space of political education, which the neoliberal university tries to iron out unless it, fulfills their agenda. So it really, again, was a breakthrough moment where it allowed staff and students to realize the kind of imagined space that universities should be about, but have increasingly not been about.
Yes.
So they were great. What are we doing now?
We're doing the transition shade.
Is it orange?
Orange, yellow. I'm just kind of goofing
in the crease.
So above the crease,
above.
Like right on top. Do you see like where your eye stop? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna have to do different on both, but
see, because you want to have it on top of your eyelid, so that you can see it wherever you are. So for anyone who doesn't know what teach out, it's kind of like the free university method, or like the the format, which is anyone, it's like a series of classes. Anyone who wants to be a teacher can be a teacher. It's all free, and the topics are about anything and anything you want. And what was really good about them, as you said, was like it's so different to the neoliberalized university that we have now. I mean, it's the formatting is very much not student-led or not learner-led. It's very much commercialized and financialized, and it's not free. And it comes with a lot of pressures to fit into a certain specific job market. So there's no idea or like no concept of like knowledge for knowledge's sake.
Yeah.
And there's also no concept of empowerment of the learner to one day become the one who teaches, or like, the idea that like people teach each other no matter where they are at their stage in life. And yeah, so there were those all around. What was really good is that, I mean, I, as a student, got to like do a few lectures myself, which was like terrifying.
What did you do?
I did a teach out on the governance structure of my university, and then we also did this really fun game called the Social Strike that was created by Fast Forward.
Melbourne. Kia.
Yeah. Yes. Right here, and we played it, and like we adapted it to like the university and like university strikes and stuff. It was so much fun. Yeah,
I used to work with Kia.
Really?
I was Kia's shop steward.
Oh my god, that is so sweet. Oh, big shout out to Kia. Yeah, he's been really supportive of this channel as well. So
I know, he was the one that tagged you when I was like, there should really be a blog about like makeup and politics. He was like, it exists.
Actually, I remember your tweet. It was like, there should be something about like a politics blog and also like a what's in my bag kind of thing.
Yeah, like a makeup bag, yeah.
Which I still really, really want to do. Like, or sort of like really chill, what's in my bag? But also let's talk about the destruction of the prison industrial complex.
Yeah.
It'll be super fun.
The other really good thing though, just to finish about the teach outs were, and I think this is the point about organizing. They spoke to a lot of different people. So obviously they spoke to you and brought you in. They gave people structure when the thought of 14 days over 4 weeks was really overwhelming. They allowed people to maybe do something that they hadn't been able to do for years or perhaps ever, because for academics and for other people who work at university, your job roles are usually so prescriptive about what you can and can't do. Yes. So it allowed all of that stuff, which is really, really good and in some ways the most important. But what it also did was it didn't allow management to weaponize students against staff. Yes. Because we were still fundamentally spending time with you. And it didn't allow a narrative to develop that, staff were just like sat around not doing anything for 4 weeks. We were like, so if you were trying to like get people to join in the strike, which is the point about density, which is the point about mass participation, you have to find activities that bring everyone along, even the people that are skeptical, that are worried, that don't agree. And the picket line, to go back to frivolous and joy and makeup, the picket lines were fun. There were raves on some picket lines. There was pornstar martinis at 10 a.m. because there was a joke about Vice Chancellor's expenses and they drunk pornstar martinis, which is so cringy. So there was also like
deep snow. I remember that too.
Yeah. So the picket line ended up being like a place where everybody by the end of the second, third or fourth week wanted to be, because it was that site of reimagining, and because it ended up being a space that maybe even quite right-wing members of the union could get on board with. And that's the point about building density and building movements, that you don't just hang out with the people that agree with you. You try and make it inclusive. What are you doing now?
I'm doing the second shade, which is the burnt orange. And I'm just cutting it. I'm just like putting it a little bit further into the crease, like here.
Okay.
And then I'm going back with the first transition shade, just a little tiny bit, just to like blend it in.
I think I'm probably going to end up going darker than you, because
I mean, go for it.
It's I'm working with what I have.
I mean, what's really good about the cut crease is that it's a technique rather than like a set of like a color palette. So it literally works with like every single color palette you can imagine.
I'm doing some TV interviews after this. So I have to turn it down.
Oh my God, that's gonna be super fun though.
So where are you putting this?
Yeah,
Like
so
down?
like here, basically. So you see the
Yeah.
you see the transition shade, and then you kind of like do these little swivel motions to blend.
Got it.
Blonde. What were we talking about? Yes. How was your election? Your election is because you're kind of like the radical, right? Like before you, there wasn't really anyone like you. You're like the young woman and like, you know, breaking all the barriers, bubbly blue, and like you know, being all radical. And it was the first time that people really like voted for someone that was so openly radical about what they wanted to do and so openly an activist rather than a bureaucrat in the like sense of the bureaucrat.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously before getting elected, I'd been in UCU from the very beginning. I've been involved in education. So had voted in a lot of these things myself. And I, a bit like, you know, to go back to the theme of joy, I guess, I never felt that I'd been able to vote for a candidate that I really, really believed in. I was always voting for someone as a vote against another person, if that makes sense.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah, and
sort of like the Biden of the unions,
if you like. And that is no way to build a movement, you know, to vote for the person that you want to stop the other person winning.
Oh yeah.
So I'd never, ever, up until like probably a few weeks before putting my application in, my nomination, and had never considered running for anything like this. Despite what some people might think, I genuinely hadn't. But I just really thought that UCU deserved better.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know, so I'm, before getting elected, I was a senior lecturer. So now I know what UCU's sort of membership bands look like. Pretty typical of a UCU member. You know, and I'd never really been through the gauntlet of precarious employment either. I was just really lucky when I finished my PhD. And I'm like, I really care about all these issues. And I can't be the only one. Like, there has to be people like me who give a shit and who want to see things differently. And I thought to myself, but nobody's ever really spoken for them. Like, no one's ever, and not that I see myself as like a centrist voice or like the voice of unity, because, you know, I got a lot of criticism during the election campaign, and obviously once you get elected, that's fine, you know, scrutiny's fine. But I genuinely thought, like, for me, there were big issues like casualization in the sector, the moral stain of sexual harassment across all of our sectors, you know, fixing the various inequalities that are there, bringing politics back into education. And I genuinely thought that if I can run and get elected, and if we can increase turnout, because I was like, there are loads of people who just don't vote because they don't think there's anyone for them. So I was like, if we can increase turnout, a candidate like me can definitely win, because I genuinely think there are people like me out there. And then, and if I run and I don't win, then I'm actually wrong about my union. And I've learned something from that, was kind of my thought.
So it was actually a sort of like union version of the Queen's Gambit. I'm sorry, my references are so bad, but like,
which the Queen's Gambit is like chess meets Rocky IV. So love the Queen's Gambit. Yeah, so I said to myself, and I had this conversation with a few of my friends, because I was part of a sort of a breakaway activist group called USS Briefs during the 2018 strike. And I talked with a lot of my friends, because we had the same vision for the union, that it could be a really political campaigning union that's outward looking rather than maybe inward looking on kind of factional fights.
Yes.
And we grew turnout we doubled turnout, which is like still not great. It was like 22%, 21%, but we doubled it. And I won with a landslide. So to me, I was this is it, game on. People care. People want a different union. And they've showed us. My big responsibility now is to keep making sure that we get bigger and bigger turnouts at all our elections, so that everybody who's doing stuff, there's more scrutiny, there's more transparency, there's more accountability, and we get bigger.
Yes. Amazing. And what have been the things that you've been doing to, like, you know, up the the sort of the activity in the union, because you told me about a few things when we were chatting the first time. You know, the action plans, the sort of the vision that you have of the union now.
Yeah, so we've done a few. Obviously, it takes a while to do anything in bureaucratic organizations, and you know, we quite rightly have democratic structures that you know you have to kind of go through as well. But some of the things that we've done immediately have been to start a different type of participation. So we enrolled over 300 activists on Jane McAlevey and the Rosa Luxemburg Strike School. Yeah. And, you know, that's in addition to the many, many reps that we've been putting through our education. So one of the first things I did when I started was to say we need an overview of our training and our eds and what we do. The union used to do loads of CPD that was like how to get a grant. And I'm like, that's what our employers teach us. We should not be doing that. So we kind of like have looked at a lot of our education and training. We've been putting people through strike school. We're going to be putting more people through strike school. We have started, and I can see Emma Goose is watching this. We've started something called the task groups, which was an idea that we thought of when I was running, which is for various reasons, we don't get a lot of different types of people who run in elections. And sometimes I think our structures have not been welcoming of people who can't, you know, for various different reasons, whether you're neurodivergent or, you know, you just can't commit to running to something for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we need other ways for people to participate. So we established this task group. 118 people applied. We've got a dozen people on it with a chair, and they're taking part in a kind of what we hope will be a landmark kind of study on how we eradicate sexual violence in our sectors.
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
And UCU are the union leading on this. And we're using our own members' expertise to conduct this research.
Oh, that's so nice.
So wholesome.
Give me little tingles.
I don't know what you're doing.
Okay, so I kind of fucked up because basically I didn't realize that so the way that you do the cut crease, like the one tip that I kind of retained from my little tutorial videos was you put it on the bottom of your eyelid. So you take the concealer, which has to be like quite a thick concealer, and you put it on the bottom of your eyelid, and then you look up, and right, wherever that stops is going to be where you do your cut crease, if that makes sense. But I didn't put enough.
I'm just going to use my finger.
You're going to use your what?
Finger. You look worried.
Not going to work? It's a precise thing. No, it's fine. It'll be fine.
I'd have to go into my bedroom and get a kind of brush that you're using, and I don't think I don't want to do it.
Oh no. I mean, you can do it if you want to.
No,
like, makeup is like serious art, mate. I maintain. Oh my God. I'm kind of fucking this up. I feel like Paul last week. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
Sorry, I've after your look of judgment, I've gone back to a brush. Because ultimately, I am a bit of a conformist.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so we are coming up with new ways for people to participate, which I think is really, really good. You know, we are coming up with, and I'm hoping that what we're also doing is really teaching people about, you know, what we were saying at the beginning, like don't third party the union. You know, when you third party the union, you actually give away some of your industrial power to us. This union is yours. And if you want something doing, then organize within your branch and put stuff in motion so that we do it. You know, and I would imagine most of the time the stuff that members want in branches is stuff that we would love to do anyway. It's just obviously we have finite resources, and you know, sometimes you need to have a steer.
Well, the most important resource of a union is like the activity of its members anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been really busy, and we've been really busy, me just sort of enacting some of the things that obviously I said I wanted to do if I got elected. So kind of carrying out the things that I already have a mandate for. And then obviously we just have to respond to a lot of what's happening in the sector. And
well, yeah, because COVID was like, COVID was like the thing that nobody wanted and that somehow everybody got. And it was just like, oh my God. what's happening. And how did you guys like deal with all the COVID stuff? Like how, you know, because there was like this massive, I mean, you know, there's massive debate about whether universities should remain open, and then the government like fucking everything up, and then like locking students into their halls. God, that was just absolute.
Before I answer, you need to tell me what I'm doing so then I can do the two things together.
Okay. So you have concealer.
Yeah.
You're gonna basically take the brush that you use to like blend in all the other makeup. Don't add any more makeup, but you're gonna literally stamp onto the outline. Yeah. Actually, you can take a bit more makeup.
Yeah, I think I need to. Do I want the orange or do I want the transition color?
So you want the darkest color.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah. See, so I think we both got it wrong here, because basically you were supposed to do it like a lot higher. We were supposed to put eyeshadow a lot higher, but we can fix this. We can fix it.
We can fix it.
We can fix it.
So I think, you know, to begin with, we took a much more strident view than maybe a lot of other sectors, because we could really see the danger of having basically education is just, especially at university level, was basically super spreader events every day. You know, the idea that you would carry on lectures, the idea that you would carry on open days, these were the exact events that government was telling people in other areas of their lives to not do.
Yes.
So at the beginning of it all, we had just had one of our NECs, and we had a very kind of coherent position as a union, that we thought this stuff, even though there was obviously complications involved and workload implications involved with taking everything online. I've lost my brush. We were we were of the opinion that everything needed to be done as remotely as possible, if possible. I've really lost it. Oh, there it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the entire rest of the country, which is, yeah. But this is the thing with a business like model of a university, is that they'll put profit before people. The usual. What?
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And the problem with universities in particular is, you know, they never want to do something that their nearest competitor isn't doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so literally the weekend before lockdown in March, there were universities that were still hosting open days. You know, and we've seen colleges during lockdown have been doing the same as well. You know, and we had to battle to get our prison members out of prisons where there've been COVID outbreaks. There's no soap and water in some of the prisons, you know, the whole thing was just a mess. So the initial period before, like at the beginning of lockdown, was just a huge scramble to try and get everyone safe. And as you say, that the competitive nature of education, particularly at higher education level, was just a huge barrier to anybody really taking this seriously.
Yep. And, you know, there's also like the big issue. I mean, there's the big issue of like casualization leading into COVID, meaning that a lot of people just didn't have any means or like any income during that time, and didn't necessarily have like the support that they needed. Which was also fun.
So right at the beginning, again, we were really involved in getting furlough extended to HE and to contracted out staff and casualised staff, because initially furlough didn't cover them, and we lobbied the government and it got extended, which was great. But then obviously the struggle is to make universities actually use it, because even though it was available to them, a lot of universities chose not to or tried not to. So there was a number of, I think, almost kind of background invisible wins that the union was really kind of on the front of back in spring, which were great at the time, but obviously was just a tremendous amount of effort because there was a crisis in every sector that we represented.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
And we were just finishing massive industrial action.
Oh my God, yes, as well, because you always have industrial action, which is a great thing about.
It's just literally everything. And I know this was the same for many trade unions, but everything that could have happened happened all at once. And every sector, as I say, was in crisis. And obviously the union was having to transition to working from home.
Yes.
You know, all of our staff were having to work from home. So you have every sector you represent in crisis, an organization that's having to go through its own crisis moment to try and keep operations stable, and then people having to homeschool their kids and, you know, standing, you know, all of the UCU staff went through the same that everybody else went through. You know, we lost people. So it was just bananas. And I think we actually pulled through really well.
You did.
I'm so proud of UCU that we, you know, we as a union, because people often don't think about the staff of the union. We haven't furloughed anyone. Everyone has been kept on. You know, there's promises that we made to everyone at the beginning. We stood by them all. Where, you know, we've really pulled together as an operation. And not, you know, not all unions treat their staff like we do. So, you know, and I think it's yeah, it will continue to be difficult. But I think it's been out of all of the challenges, it's been good, if that makes sense.
Yes. 100% agreed. I mean, the thing is, like, as someone who has witnessed firsthand, like, the sort of the rise of UCU and the regain of its power and, like, the way that its members feel now compared to, like, a few years ago about their careers and about the potential that they have of, like, you know, choosing what's going to happen and whether they'll have their pensions or not is just, it's amazing. And I think there's so many lessons for other unions and, like, anyone who is in a union and not necessarily within UCU can definitely, like, take these lessons on board because it's just, yeah.
And we've grown by 8,000 members in the last 12 months.
Oh my God.
Which is huge. And the 12 months previously, UCU only grew by 1,000 members. And I think, it was a similar kind of growth the year before that. And it's really important, I think, to look at these longer term indicators that people actually are seeing the union as a good vehicle for change and worthy of spending their time and getting involved in. Because as I say, if we don't keep growing our density, then our industrial power will always be curtailed.
Yes, I agree. And in layman's terms, if more people don't join, we don't get more money.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it in layman's terms. If there are, let's say there's 100,000 staff who could potentially be part of strikes in higher education.
Mm-hmm.
If at any one time you can only convince 30,000 of them to take action with you and walk out, but then you're not going to get 100% of what you want. You might not even get any of what you want.
Yes.
Whereas if you've got a union that's, you know, 80 or 90% density, if you look at some of the American teaching unions, you know, even at that point, just the threat of a ballot, just the threat of strike action can get you what you want. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared to take action, but that your leverage itself is bigger by numbers.
Yes. 100% agreed. But I really want to know for the future, because this is quite a utopian channel, admittedly so. I really love the concept of utopias. I think they're, you know, people think of them as like, oh, they're just dreams, it's never gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. I see them more as like directing lines, like, where do we want to be? Where does someone who is entering higher education now, or who is starting their job now in higher education, or, you know, anyone who's thinking about sending their kids to school or university or whatever, their grandkids, how is it that we can think about education and higher education in a way that, like, it, you know, empowers everyone and, like, nurtures everyone, no matter where they come from, no matter, you know, what they look like, blah, 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 blah. How do you see, you know, higher education, like, the role, the big, like, if you had to dream and you could, where would you go? Where would you take UCU?
I think this is the point though about why UCU I think is such a special union, is that we have all the skills and the experience and the people who do all the various different jobs and kind of touch people's lives in different ways, both in the community and in the classroom and in all the other kind of experiences that you have on campus. We do that, and we fundamentally know that education is best when it's free,
Mm-hmm.
when, you know, it's accessible by anyone. We know that education and minds are open best when you have open borders. You know, UCU was one of the few unions that was unapologetically kind of pro freedom of movement. You know, we know that. And I think the strength of UCU is that we have members who can articulate that really, really well. Like whenever you see a UCU member interviewed on a picket line, they're just amazing on the news.
Right? Oh my
And we
God,
have
yes.
that. And I think that one of the reasons I'm obsessed with increasing our density is if we're to get what we want in this country, which is free education, if we're to get genuinely accessible and, you know, egalitarian or utopian universities and colleges and spaces of learning, it's going to be a hell of a lot of a struggle.
Oh my God.
It's going to be a fight. But actually, I think most people agree with us. Like the arguments are on our side, but arguments don't win battles. People do. Mass movements do. And that's how we're going to change educational policy in this country. And I firmly believe it can be done. But there's no shortcuts to organizing people. There's no, you know, it doesn't happen in big industrial disputes or big political disputes that you get lucky. That doesn't happen. You don't plan to get lucky. You don't plan to do something at just the right time and there's a tipping point. You get more people on your team than they have on their team. You know, so they've got money. They've got power interests. The employer and politicians are always organized, always. So we have to be always organized. And I think that's what lets the left down, that we don't see it that way, that we don't always think we have to be always ready. We have to be always organizing. We always have to be always campaigning.
Well,
we do it at moments in time.
The thing is that we do need like the infrastructure to be able to be organized all the time and to be campaigning all the time and to be resisting all the time. And I think, you know, UCU and unions are like the big infrastructure that people should be using. And if they don't like their unions or if they don't think they're very effective, then like change them, you know. But
like we did.
Yeah. Yes. I think people like really underestimate how important infrastructure is in like not like the buildings and the things like that, even though that's important, but it's more like the actual structure through which people will be organizing. And, you know, yeah.
Completely agree. And I think I couldn't agree with you more. And unions have to provide that.
Yes.
You can't look to political parties to provide it. I fundamentally, you know, I'm really quite suspicious and skeptical of people who put all their eggs in like a political solution basket. But unions can do that. And one of the reasons I'm trying to reach out and work with other unions now as well, and it's not just about UCU, is, you know, let's take Marcus Rashford at the minute, has done something amazing and has, you know, been able to cut through to the general public about an issue that people care about. And now I think the challenge is for other activists and community groups to say, well, how do we keep people who are clearly politicized active?
Yes.
Because people won't just do it on their own. You know, they need people to kind of hold their hands, and they need unions or other organizations to sort of do it with them.
Yeah. Or, you know, just give them the resources to do it. And
yeah,
I 100% agree. And what's really good about the higher education unions is that there's not just one, there's like both the teaching staff unions and the support staff unions, and also the student unions, although I say that. But, you know, it's the kind of like solidarity that needs to be shown between everyone in the education sector who is involved in either teaching or learning has to be like, and it's starting to be so much bigger than it was before. And that was something that was really good about the 2018 actions, was that like students who supported staff and staff who supported students never really had that kind of relationship before. And now they do. And, you know, we're talking about like rent strikes now, and the way that UCU has been supporting rent strikes from students has been really, really amazing. I mean, you know, we never really expected that to happen because like we never really saw it that way. Like we never really saw it as like, oh, well, this concerns all of us. Like this is our university, all of us.
And I think that's a really important point, because I don't think it had really happened. And again, I think it was quite organic that it happened. But I think once it sort of happened organically, there's sort of mechanisms you can put in place to sort of formalize it. But it's really important from two perspectives. One, not just from solidarity in terms of what you were just saying, keeping those relationships built and all of that. But, you know, students can usually extract far quicker and bigger gains from employers than staff can.
Yes.
So even if you were just sort of doing it from a real industrial perspective, it definitely makes sense to buddy up and to make, you know, an alliance in that sense.
Agreed. So like if students walk out of class, they're not going to get fired from their university. But if lecturers do, then, you know, I mean, they just won't get rehired, right? That's like the technique now these days. You get someone on a temporary contract, and then if they misbehave, then you don't hire them again. And, you know, it's, as a student, we really felt like we had a lot more power to put pressure on the governance structure in our, you know, occupations and our actions and stuff, a lot more than staff did. You know, everyone was really afraid at first to speak up and to like not go to work and to, you know, unionize.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, if students don't speak, the management take their voice.
Yeah.
You know, and they will often say, well, students want this and students want that. Whereas actually most of the time when you talk to students, they want more time with their staff. And if there's money to be spent, they want it to be spent on classroom-based activities, not on fancy new buildings. That's
yes, and mental health provision services and bursaries and, you know, not, oh god, I remember this so well. This is giving me like PTSD.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. God, that is the worst. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm basically done with the look. All I need is a little highlighter. How are you feeling about it? I think it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm into it. I would never normally put orange anywhere near my face. Unless it was in like a blush. I wouldn't normally do like orange. So I'm really you've pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Really?
I'm actually really like shocked at how good this is looking, because I mean, I don't know, if I like step out of the light and then head to the mirror for clothes, that probably won't be like as good.
Yeah.
But look at this. My eyes look bigger. I look cute.
You look cute.
I look cute.
Yeah.
Wait, let me see your face. Oh my god. No, you look amazing. It's like sunny and like all lighted up.
I'm quite into it.
Yes.
I've done it a bit messy, I think, because I was rushing. But
sorry.
It looks really nice. Yours looks really good.
I think you should keep it for the TV.
Do you know what? I think I could get away with it, actually. Channel 4 coming at you.
It's gonna be so much fun. Okay, we've finished the look. We've spent almost an hour on UCU and all the amazing things that you've done. Are there any last words for us? Like words of encouragement, anything?
Yeah, there is actually, because I think what's happened to UCU, and I think what's happened within the union, and kind of left politics more broadly, I think has been really encouraging. And I think if my story should give anyone encouragement, is that ignore people who say you can't do things. Ignore people who think, you know, who prioritize credentialism over actual experience of getting stuck in. Because if I had have sort of listened to my betters and not said, no, I think I know what's best for my union, I'm going to run, I wouldn't have done it. And I don't think we would be where we are. So I think the whole point about unions is don't see them as a third party. Don't see them as a separate entity. Get involved in yours. And if you don't like what is happening, the only way you can change it is by being involved, not kind of moaning about it. And I didn't do that. So that would be my takeaway. And you know, if you don't like the union, start an alternative structure. You can do that too.
I agree. IWGB was started because of that. The IWW was started because of that. You know, it's, yeah, just get a union. God, guys, I say this every week. Just get a union. You'll love it.
Get a union and get a retinol.
Yes, honey. All right. Thank you so much for coming on this channel, Jo Grady. It was so much fun to have you. I love to be able to fangirl in front of you live. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye, Combabe.
Bye.